Hello everyone, my name is Everything Fantasy, or the Ultimate Music Theorist? I don't know if I can claim that title yet. And in this video we're going to discuss 10 things you didn't know about Danganronpa music. From big things across many pieces which indicate Takada's style, to really small but interesting details about specific pieces which you can only discover by really digging deep into the individual sounds of each tracks. Unless it's a really interesting detail, we won't get too specific, like revealing the BPM of a track is 110.37 or anything ridiculous like that. But instead, small interesting details, and those bigger picture things which really indicate, as a composer and someone inspired by Takada, his overarching style. The sorts of things where, if you're creating a fan project for example, these are the kind of things that you might want to pay attention to. But first things first, did you know that the majority of people watching aren't subscribed to the channel? So please make sure to subscribe, it really does help. Thank you. Let's start with the main theme of Danganronpa, and that opening vocal that everyone has known to love, the Danganronpa voice line. But did you know it actually simply comes from a Mac text-to-speech, put through a synthesizer to create that robotic sound? There's nothing more complicated than that. After testing a few sounds with Mika, whose Twitter is linked below, the closest that we could find to the inflections of the original Danganronpa voice line is Bruce.
Danganronpa.
Sticking with the Danganronpa main theme for a second, the middle section contains those really memorable vocals, but did you know they actually come from a sample library called Voices of Passion by East West? Now, the VST can be quite tricky to use at times and is quite hard to pitch up and down, and so it explains why almost every iteration of the Danganronpa main theme is in the key of G minor, because if you were to change the key, you'd have to change the pitch of the vocals, and it doesn't really work in this case, and believe me, I've tried. There is an exception to this though. Gallery music in V3 is in the key of E minor, but in this case it doesn't use those vocals. And it makes sense because if you tried to use them you'd have to change the pitch and it's not going to sound very good. Now if you're really interested in Masafumi Takada's style, you'll know that he uses a variety of different musical modes quite often. As Bro pointed out in this comment, the prevalence of blues scales for example. Take the blues scale in C as an example. Does that scale sound familiar at all? Let's talk about execution themes for a moment, and it's pretty common knowledge that execution themes contain a basic underlying rhythm that you can hear right now. But did you know that there are two exceptions to this? Hold up for 1 second, there is going to be a spoiler for a significant part of Trigger Happy Havoc, so if you haven't finished the game, I'd recommend skipping over this one. The first is Celeste. The second is Makoto. Now, I feel like it's kind of thematically appropriate for Makoto, definitely. If anyone has a distinct execution theme, it would be him. Personally, I'm a Celeste fan, so I'm not going to complain that she has her own unique one. If you can think of any kind of thematic reason other than the nature of the execution as to why she has a unique theme, let me know in the comments below. Did you know that across Danganronpa 1 and 2, Takada uses a particular key signature more than anything else, and that's G minor, with C minor coming in a close second. And yes, I did go through every single track in Danganronpa 1 and 2 and work this out. If you want to know the key signatures of all of those tracks, check out my Twitter because I posted a picture of that entire table. One thing I find really interesting about Danganronpa music as a whole, and it's the kind of thing which I haven't necessarily seen in many other series of games, is the relationship between pieces. From Danganronpa 1 to the anime to V3, there are certain pieces which have an intrinsic link to each other. I wouldn't be surprising anyone if I said that New World Order is very similar to Old World Order, which is similar to Climax Reasoning, or that Beautiful Dead from DR1 is also arranged and used in Ultra Despair Girls. These are things which are really clear to anyone who's played any of those games. But the similarities across pieces are much deeper than this. They often take the form of repeated phrases and similar patterns of notes which are used again and again. This is best demonstrated if I were to play a random medley of Danganronpa pieces on piano, all transposed to the same key signature of G minor, and you'll just see how many pieces use similar phrases such that they almost sound like they could be one continuous piece. If I told you that in Danganronpa v3, Takada uses the very famous classical piece by Claude Debussy, Clair de Lune, you'd look at me and ask me why I'm including that as a fact. But did you know this isn't actually the first time Takada has used Clair de Lune in a video game? Shout out to Mika for spotting this. Let's move on to investigation themes for a moment, and Box 15, one of my favourite tracks in the entire series, has that really recognisable opening section with the cowbells. But did you know it's not actually a cowbell? It's actually a doumbek. We know this because we know exactly where Takada got the sound from. It's within the popular synthesizer plugin Omnisphere. Within the plugin they describe how it was created, and essentially it's a clever piece of sound design where they took a $2 children's fan and essentially recorded the sound of the fan interacting with the skin of the drum. Whether it's a luscious string section or a sophisticated piano ballad, composers, particularly for video games, have so many different means of expressing emotion, and for Takada, it looks very similar in a lot of pieces. If we look at some of the key pieces across the series, which their entire purpose is to express some kind of really focused emotion, Takada has this very similar style of stripping back so many of the instrumentation and focusing on one or two instruments. Let's finish off by answering the question of what exactly Takada uses to make music. What tools, what sounds does he use, what instruments does he use, that kind of thing. This would be really interesting for anyone that wants to create music in Takada's style, or anyone that's just curious about what technology Takada actually uses. And as someone that uses multiple different DAWs, you end up just stumbling across things, often by accident, like this.
Say goodbye!
And this.
Dance, dance, dance. Gonna make you dance, dance, dance.
And this.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
There are also loads of people in the Danganronpa community as a whole who manage to just accidentally stumble across different sounds and VSTs and plugins that Takada happens to use. Shout out to Megastrike, whose channel is listed below, for helping to provide so many of the hardware and software that Takada uses. It would take ages to go through each of them individually, so here's a quick list of many of the different software and hardware. It's always so inspiring how integral music is to a video game if you compare it to any other digital media. Music in video games isn't just something that accompanies the experience, it is part of the experience, and Danganronpa is a fantastic example of that. I really enjoyed making this video, and there are many more facts about Danganronpa music which I didn't get to discuss in this video, but happy to do another one. I've also left a comment down below asking for a suggestion of another series of games to do this to. Whichever response gets the most likes, I'll pick that one. But as always, huge thanks for watching and take care.